Hey friend, it's Simon Hurley and welcome to another video. Today is super exciting because we have another launch with Spellbinders featuring standalone dies and Glimmer Hot Foil plates. This one is called Photosynthesis because it features the beautiful colors of nature, some really great florals, and some great geometric designs that will work all year long. The collection is now available at several retailers and I'll have links down below to where you can shop and check it out, and using those links helps support me, so I really appreciate it. So during this video I'm going to share each product and then I'm going to go in depth on that product as I share it to show tons of inspiration using it. So without further ado, let's get into it. This next set is a hot foil plate and die set, and it's called Must Have Sentiments. It's got a ton of really great basic sentiments you can use all year round, and it's in such a beautiful, classic, and modern font, which I love. It goes along with so many different styles. And one thing that I really like about this is that all the sentiments are on one hot foil plate, and there's one die to cut them all out, so it only takes 2 passes to get all of these 6 sentiments. And Spellbinders adheres these to this thicker vellum sheet so that it's really easy to go in and peel these off of that adhesive, rather than having it right on the cardstock, which can kind of rip and get quite messy. So I just love how easy it is to peel these off. I have a feeling this one's going to sell out fast. It's similar to the Joyful Christmas sentiments that we released, which were super popular because it's all one foil plate and all one die set to cut out a bunch of sentiments at once, so you can create a lot of cards really easily. So before we go in and foil these, let's talk about some of the basics of Glimmer Hot Foiling. So this is the Glimmer Hot Foil. You can buy these hot foil rolls in a pack of 1, or you can buy them in 4 packs. This is much different than the foil you'd use with toner and laminators, so be sure you buy the correct foil if you're going to do the Glimmer Hot Foiling. This is what that packaging looks like, and I'll have the foils linked down below so you can check out all of the amazing color varieties they have. And this system is how I have my foils stored from Spellbinders. I love this little unit because you can have them all at hand's reach and you can see all the beautiful colors. So I'll have this storage link down below as well. So for starters, let's go in and do some classic gold foiling. So I'm going to roll out a little bit of this gold foil roll. Then I'm going to grab my hot foil plate and place it right on top. This is going to help me know how much I need to cut. I've got this on top of a little cutting mat, and I'm also going to go in with a little rotary trimmer. I love this one from OLFA. Again, I'll have it linked down below just because it's nice and small, so you can get into some of these little details and cut out just enough foil. It makes it a lot easier than cutting this thin foil with scissors. And what I love about this trimmer is that it has a nice safety guard, so this is not going to cut you when you store it. You just push that back down so the blade isn't exposed still. Then get out your Glimmer Hot Foil system, turn this on up here, and wait until this turns green so your platform is ready and hot for foiling. There's a couple different ways you can set the foiling up, but I'm going to share my favorite way to make sure there's no shifting as we run it through our machine. To do this, I like to use a piece of my Simon Hurley Creates dark white cardstock. It's nice and thick and bright white, so it's going to be great for foiling. I'll then place my piece of foil down facing up. You want the pretty side facing up on your cardstock. Then I'll go in with my hot foil plate and I'm going to face this design side down. So the pretty side of the foil plate is going to face the pretty side of the foil. Then I'm going to go in using a little bit of mint tape, or you can use any sort of heat safe tape, and I'm just going to go in and adhere this down. The reason why I like the mint tape is because I know it's not going to rip my cardstock. Then you want to take this whole sandwich and place it with the hot foil plate facing right onto the Glimmer Hot Foil system. Then you're going to press this button and this is going to blink. Once this is nice and solid, we can then go in with our plates that come with the machine. You're going to place down the thin shim and then the spacer pad on top. And then we can remove this from our Glimmer machine, set this off to the side. We'll bring in our Spellbinders Platinum die cutting machine and we're going to run it right through. Here I'm using the Platinum 6 and I'm just going to slowly run this through the machine to evenly heat the platform. And once that's all done, I'll place this right back into its base so it can start reheating for the next time. And you want to be careful with this, so I'm just going to lift this off with the tweezers it comes with since it's quite hot, and then I'll place it right onto the cooling mat. And here we have our beautifully foiled sentiments. I love how it turned out, and you can see just how nice and crisp it is since we taped it down so there was no shifting. Now we had just a little bit of overfoiling down here, and so to help that out, I'm going to go in using the Mono Sand Eraser. This sort of sands down the cardstock a little bit and will get rid of any foiling that's on the top of that surface that you don't want on your card. So just gently remove that foiling with this eraser, and it comes off really quite easily. I'm not super worried about it here because we're going to die cut this out, but you can see the foiling's pretty much gone down there, so if you had this on a 1-layer card, you'd be perfectly fine. Then we'll go in with the coordinated die, and like I said, I love that these are all on the same die, so it only needs 1 pass through our machine. So I'm just going to go in, line this up, and I'm going to grab a little bit of mint tape, again because I love that it doesn't rip my cardstock, and I'll tape this down to hold it in place so that it doesn't shift while we run it through. And check out just how easily all these pop out of here. And then you have 6 really beautifully foiled and die cut sentiments that you can use on your cards. I love just how quickly and easy it is to foil and die cut those out, since each one only takes 1 pass. I can see you foiling a bunch of sentiments at once, and then you have them ready to put on cards whenever you need a last minute sentiment. Next, I'm going to use this opal foil, which is a clear foil, but it's holographic, and I want to see how this looks on dark cardstock with my sentiments. And with this hot foil, since it's clear, you just want to keep track of which side is the pretty side, so facing outward here is the side we want to face towards the die. So I'm going to place that down, and then we can easily cut it out using our rotary trimmer. And for this foiling, I'm going to use alcohol ink black cardstock. I love this because it's super velvety smooth, so it's going to be great for foiling, and it's super intense jet black. So I'm going to place my piece of foil down, pretty side facing up, and then I'm going to place my hot foil down with the design side facing towards the pretty side of the foil down on the cardstock. So place this all facing down, and then we'll press our timer. All right, once this is ready, I'll place my plates right down. We'll lift this off, and then we'll run this right through our die cutting machine. And we'll peel to reveal. And it's looking beautiful. I love that holographic shine, but there is some foiling in between the letters. Now this isn't pressed into the cardstock. Sometimes it just overfoils a little bit, but it's not quite impressed. So with that, we can just go in with a normal eraser, just a pencil eraser, and this is going to loosen up that foil super easily. So it'll take any foil out of in between those letters really nicely and clean it all up. So look, there's quite a bit in there. We can go in with our eraser, and you can see just how easily it cleans this up. So you don't need a sand eraser when it's not quite impressed into the cardstock like this. Just a normal eraser will take all of this excess foiling out. But overall, I'm super impressed with this. I love how that clear foil looks. It's beautifully holographic, and this jet black cardstock is great for foiling after this. And it's super easy to pop these sentiments out. And again, we've got 6 sentiments beautifully foiled. So I love all the options you have with different colors of cardstock and colors of foil as well. Sometimes I love a black sentiment. It really stands out nicely, so this is beautiful. This beautiful die set is called Daffodil Frame, and this one is so versatile, and I'll show you why in just a second. But I love just the beautiful floral frame that we have going on here, and then these quite a few layers you can do to color the florals in. So this comes with the floral design and the die to make it into a frame, and it also has different dies that has all of the floral pieces, all of the second floral layer, and all of the leaves. I love that each one of these dies is a grouping instead of being little individual pieces, so you're only gonna have to run it through once to get all of them, and you're not gonna lose any little pieces, which is game changing for me. And these are projects that we created using the daffodil frame, which I'll show you how to do in just a second, to get that great layered look and color in the really beautiful florals. And also this little beautiful sentiment is from my Everyday Sentiments die set. I love it, the font in this is just gorgeous, and it works so well with many different styles of card making designs, which I love. I also love that you don't have to clip these dies apart, so they're already clipped apart for you, which saves a ton of time. And also I feel like clipping apart dies is kind of a safety hazard, so I love that they did it for you. So with this die, you have the floral piece, and then you have the frame piece. And I'm gonna show you with and without so you can just see how versatile this die is. So first I'm going without the frame, and I'm just going to tape this on the side of my A2 size card. Here I'm using stark white cardstock, and then I can run this right through my die cutting machine to easily cut it out. We can pop out all these little pieces. They fall out super cleanly. So with this, we have a gorgeous floral die cut that cuts a window out of any size cardstock that we have. So you can put this on a larger project, and this is gonna create a great silhouette of those florals, and it creates a much larger frame since we didn't use the frame that came along with it. Another way is to take this frame die, center it up, and tape it right back in alongside that die. And then we can tape both those pieces onto a piece of cardstock and run this through our die cutting machine. So with this example, you can see that beautiful floral, but it's got this nice delicate frame all around the design, which frames it out just beautifully. And then you're able to mount this beautifully onto a larger card project. But I love that we include that frame separately so you can get 2 totally different looks from one die. So if you're not into all the layering, I have a fun technique to show you just using a white die cut like this. So I've got out my craft sheet, which has a special coating on it, which is going to kind of bead up this ink beautifully. And then I'm gonna go in with my Simon Hurley Create inks and smoosh them down onto my nonstick craft sheet. Here I've used Shooting Star, then I'm gonna go in using a little bit of Guppy, and I'm just using the edge of my ink pad and applying a little bit of ink all around the craft sheet in different areas. Here I used a little bit of Prom Queen, and then I'll finish it off with some red bee sting. So we've got a nice warm tone color blend going on here. Then I'll go in using a bit of water, and this is what's special about the craft sheet, is it kind of beads up and separates the ink a little bit, so that's gonna give really great texture when we dip our cardstock into here. So then I can go into my cardstock and just start dipping the piece right in. And you can see we get this beautiful beads of ink as we tap it into our color. So once we've got our first light wash of color across the surface, we can then go in using our heat tool and heat set this to dry it in between layers. You can let it air dry too, but you just want this first layer dry so that we can add more layers on top. Once we've dried that first watercolor layer, we can then go back in and start dipping this in, and I'm just going to lightly tap it into the surface to get these kind of droplets of color and add lots of texture onto the surface. So there we have our beautiful, soft tie-dye color layers. I love how this turned out, and it's a great way to use this sort of silhouette dye without incorporating a bunch of layers. To add some dimension, I've cut out 2 more of the same die cut, and I'm just going to use a little bit of liquid glue on the back to layer them together. To do this, I just kind of loosely set them on top of each other, and then to help it line up, I go in and I just lightly pinch in between my fingers. And since there's a little bit of wiggle room with the liquid adhesive, we have some time to sort of move it around. And just by pinching it up, it sort of helps to line it in place. And then once we've got it, we'll just add a little bit of pressure to adhere them together. So by adding 2 die cuts behind it, it gives it a nice thickness and dimension and makes it much more substantial for my card making project. Another thing we can do to intensify these colors and make this stand out a little bit more is go in and do some embossing. So I'm going in using a Versamark clear sticky ink pad, and I'm just going to apply the ink all over the surface of the top of this die cut. Then I'll go in using some clear heat embossing powder and I'll just dump it right over top to coat the whole surface of the die cut and tap off any excess. If you've seen any of my videos before, you know I love clear heat embossing powder. It really intensifies things and gives them a beautiful shine. So then we'll heat set this until it's nice and clear and shiny. Alright, you can see that 1 layer of embossing powder has already intensified the color really beautifully and made it more saturated. But to make this even shinier, I'm just going to go in with another layer. So I'll just go back in using a little bit of Versamark clear sticky ink. And then we'll repeat those steps again of throwing over the embossing powder and heat setting it till it's nice and shiny. And you can see that second layer really brings the shine and makes it nice and substantial. This is a great way to sort of turn your die cuts into really beautiful embellishments on your card. And then I'll finish off the card with this Love You So Much foiled sentiment kind of hanging off of that die cut. I love how this finished card turned out. It's super simple but really stunning with that silhouette of the flowers that we colored in using the inks and finishing it off with that gorgeous foiled sentiment. The colorful florals against that black card stands out so beautifully. Now if you want to do the layered version of the flowers, here's how you would cut it out. So I'm going to take the floral piece, you can do it with or without the frame, and I'm going to cut this out of green cardstock. This is going to be sort of the base, and I'll also cut out all of the leaf pieces on that same green cardstock. For the florals, you can cut them out of any colors, but I'm going to cut the larger florals out of yellow, and then I'll cut these smaller inside pieces out of some pink. And again, we'll run that right through our die cutting machine. So once I've cut out all these little pieces, I'm going to then go in with an ink pad that sort of matches each one of the colored cardstocks, but is just slightly darker, and I'm just going to go in with that color and blend it on the surface of the die cuts. With these, I'll usually just hit the edges of the die cuts with a bit of ink to darken them and give some depth and dimension to the images. Now I know these are little pieces, so this is not for everyone. You can totally skip this step if you want to, but I'll show you in just 1 second how much dimension this adds, and I think it's going to be a step you won't want to skip. It only takes a couple extra minutes, but it really brings the die cuts to life. Same thing for the leaves. I'm just going to bring a little bit of darker green up half the stem there. For example, here's without ink and here's with ink. These are using a little bit different colors of cardstock, but you can really see how much more depth and dimension this one has. If you want to take the extra couple minutes, you totally could, but both are beautiful if you want to do without ink and just layer it up like that. I've adhered the green die cut frame onto the cutout window here, so that's another way you can do it to kind of layer it up and give it a little bit of dimension in your die cutting. Then let's adhere these pieces together. So I'll start off with the leaves. I'm just going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive on top of these leaf areas. And then I can go in with these pieces and just layer it up. It matches up just like a puzzle, and we can layer these on top for some extra dimension. So it's really easy to just find the one that matches, line it up, and place it down. Then let's move into these flowers. I'm again just going to add a little bit of adhesive down onto the surface first. This helps just speed along the process as we're gluing things down. And then I'll bring in my tweezers to help sort of line these pieces up. You should be able to find and match the shapes pretty easily since they're the same as what's below it. And then there's little sort of etched marks inside of these to show where the top flowers should go. So I'll just add a little bit of adhesive in those areas. And those little etched markings help to find the area tremendously. and be able to lay those die cut pieces down really quickly and easily. And once everything is all complete, you have these really gorgeous daffodil florals and this beautiful framed effect. And again, that inking really gives it tons of depth and dimension as you layer those up. To finish this off, I'm going to use some light blue cardstock for my sky, and I'm going to go in using a bit of breakup blue ink to add some depth and dimension to this. To do this, I'm just going to go in with a mini foamed dome blending tool and blend some ink onto the surface. And I'm really going to focus the ink on the bottom of this cardstock, and we're going to sort of fade the color upwards. So I'm starting at the bottom, really concentrating quite a bit of blending down there. And then once I'm satisfied with my coloring, I'll sort of slowly work my way upwards as I blend out the color into the cardstock color. And if we want to, we can even add a little bit of darker blue at the bottom. So here I'll go into some No Diving ink and just add a little bit of a darker blue color right at the bottom. Then I've added some liquid glue on the back of this, and I'm going to adhere it right down to this blue blended panel. And I love the blending that we did on here to create that gorgeous gradient from dark to light at the top. And to finish off this card, I'm going to bring in a must-have foiled sentiment that says, "Thinking of you." I love how great this is. And I foiled it with holographic foil on top of black cardstock. And here's a closer look at that finished card. I love how beautiful that layered flower is. All those different layers to create tons of depth and dimension to create some really great realistic looking daffodils. And finishing it off with that great sentiment, I love that holographic foil on the black cardstock. It really makes it stand out nicely and gives the card some great contrast. This die set called Floral Stems is so gorgeous. It has 5 different layering flowers in it that you can piece together to create really beautiful 3D looking florals, and then a bunch of different leaf and stem options you can use to finish them off. So there's lots of different dies in here. I'll show you how to put all of them together, and you can sort of use the front of the packaging as a reference as well. For the first sunflower, you'll need these 3 dies. I'll cut both pieces out of yellow, but you could use a darker yellow for this layer if you want to. And then I'll cut the centerpiece out of dark brown cardstock. Then we'll run this right through. With the floral die cuts, I'm going to do the exact same thing by going in with a little bit darker of a color of ink and doing some shading. So here I'm shading from the top of the flower, and I'm just going to add some ink to add some depth and dimension to this. And for the center, I'll use a little bit of a darker brown and just add some shading. It makes all the difference. So with all of my floral pieces, I'll choose a color that's just a little bit darker and add some shading. So I've added some glue up there. I'm going to take the second layer and place it down. That lines up really super easily at the top there. And then I'll add a tad bit more glue up there and I'll place down the center. And I'm just using a little bit of liquid glue so we have a little bit of time to move it around. For this next flower, you'll need these 3 pieces. I'm going to die cut the largest piece out of some dark orange and the lightest piece out of some light orange. You could use any color, but do dark and light. And for the center, I'll cut it out of a piece of yellow. Here I've added some liquid glue, and again, it's really easy to line up sort of with the shape of the flower, and the petals should all fall into place as we adhere it down. Now you could leave this as is, or you could add the centerpiece, which I'm going to do. So I'm just going to add a little bit more liquid glue right in the center, and we'll pop the little centerpiece right down. And check out just how beautiful that is. I love the dimension to that flower. For the next flower, I'm going to use these 3 pieces. And again for this, I'm going to use a dark red for the largest layer and a lighter red for the lined layer. And same thing, I'll cut the center out of yellow. Then I'll add down the lighter red piece on top. And again, the petals sort of just line up. But if you need extra help, check on the packaging. And there's also a centerpiece to this one, so we can just pop it right into place. Perfect. For the next floral, you'll need these 2 layers, and again, I'm going to do dark and light. So I'll lay these down and run it through with purple. This next one is simple, delicate, and gorgeous. I'm just going to easily lay this piece right on top. And again, it doesn't need to be perfect, but check out just how beautiful that finished floral is. For the lily, you'll need these 3 pieces, and I'm going to cut the largest piece out of the lighter color, and the smaller piece out of the darker color. And then for the center, I'll place it on brown. This lily is just a frame, so it's super easy. We can just lay it right on top. And then there's the little stamen for this, so I'm going to add some glue to the center and pop this piece right into place. That is just gorgeous. I love all the little details this one has, and when you put it together, it's so stunning. Now we've also given you a super wide variety of stems and leaves as well, so you can take a lot of different leaves and create different bouquets, and also use some of the taller stems to create standalone florals on your cards. We really worked through many iterations of this to make sure you have a wide variety of leaves in different angles, so they're super versatile. This next Glimmer Hot Foil plate set is called Modern Stripes, and it's 3 different Glimmer Hot Foil plates with different variations of stripes. So you have one with large, thick stripes, one with medium-sized stripes, and then one with a bunch of smaller stripes on it. And this is going to be great for pattern building. So I'm going to show you how to use them, but this is one of the card examples. Having them on a diagonal like this creates a beautifully foiled background that you can then put a nice focal point on, but I'm going to show several different ways to use them. This idea was really inspired by some stamps in my collection with Ranger. This one is called Pinstripes. I absolutely love it. It's got a bunch of different variations of stripes, and these are peel-apart rubber background stamps. So you can use these different strips individually and stamp them across a card, whether you're creating different striped backgrounds in different colors, or if you want to create sort of a plaid look. And there's also the Plaid Maker, which is a similar concept, but each stripe is different thicknesses and has different textures, so you can create your own beautiful plaid patterns. So if you're into this idea of pattern building with stripes, but you don't have the whole hot foil system, check out these stamps. I'll have them linked down below as well, so you can stamp with them and create some beautiful patterns. So when it comes to these hot foil plates, I wanted to separate them so you can use them individually if you want to, or you can line them up on your work surface like this, super easily, and then you can go in with a little bit of mint tape or any sort of masking tape and tape these together so that they form one thicker strip of design. And this is it compared to an A2 size card. So what I like about taping them together is it would only take 1 or 2 passes to run this through the Glimmer machine and cover a whole background. For this project, I'm going to use this beautiful brown color of foil, so I'll just go in with my rotary trimmer and trim out a piece that I can use on my card. Okay, so here I'm going to place down my foil, and then I'll grab this foil plate, put it at an angle like this, and tape it down. And we'll place this all onto our Glimmer system. You want to kind of do it at an angle or upward like this, because it doesn't necessarily fit across like that. And we'll run it right through our die cutting machine to get even pressure across the foiling. And check that out, they're so bold and beautiful. I love the shine that neutral brown foil has, and just how geometric these stripes are. Angling them like this makes for a great design point, and then you can put a focal point right in the center. So if you want to step up this design even more, we can do some layering. So I've taped this down to my cutting mat so we can use the lines to line up our design. So I'll place down my foil. You can either use the same or a different color. And then I'll bring back in the foil plate, and we're going to line up our design with the lines on our mat. Place it down onto our machine. And then some foil, we'll run this right through our die cutting machine. And oh my gosh, look at that amazing foiling. It's so beautiful, layered up, and you get this sort of diamond 3D looking design where everything overlaps. And you can even use 2 different colors and really make it pop. But I love this neutral brown, so you can put something colorful on top. To finish off this card, I'm going to use some of the long stems and florals to create a standalone bouquet. And I love these longer stems because it makes these a really great focal point floral on your cards. And then I'll add some leaves on these stems to really make them come to life. Again, that's why I love all the different varieties of leaves in the set. And then I'll pop the florals on some foam tape, so adding that lily down, and then I'll pop this beautiful purple flower right next to it. I'll finish it off with a foiled sentiment that says just a note, and I'm going to place it right down onto those stems to continue that and cover up some of the parts where it overlaps. I love those brown foiled modern lines. It really creates such a beautiful and eye-catching background, and finishing it off with those florals and the sentiments really creates such a stunning and elegant card. I love how this one turned out, and I just can't wait to send it out. Now another great way to use the florals on the card is using the ceramic vases set. And this one coordinates really beautifully with the different flowers because we've sized them perfectly to fit together really nicely. These vases are super inspired by lots of different home decor and ceramics, which I love and I'm obsessed with. So each one of these ceramic vases has different patterns inside that you could use to emboss if you want to, or you could take those inner pieces out and just have the plain vases by themselves. You can see all of the gorgeous vase designs on the front of the packaging, and I'll use some of these to pot some of the flowers in today's video. This next cover plate die set is called a zigzag chevron, and what I really love about this one is it's super versatile. So you can cut it once and layer it down to create a beautiful chevron background, or you can layer it up with 2 die cuts to create kind of an interlocking chevron or diamond pattern, which is just beautiful. Of course, here I used it in 2 different colors, but you could just do 1 color or do it with white to make it a little bit more subtle. And similarly to the other background dies in my collection, you have the chevron background without a border around it, and then you also have the border die. So if you need to, you can use these together, which will cut out an A2 size card along with the design. But if you're already using an A2 size card panel, all you need is this die to cut it out. And not having a border will also allow you to use this die and then continue the pattern all the way across a larger project. This design is similar to the Candy Stripes cover plate die that we released, which has really awesome stripes, or you can use it kind of layered together to create a beautiful interlocking plaid pattern. That one is so much fun and can also be used all year round. So I'm going to die cut out of some stark white cardstock, and then I'll lay down my die without the border since it's already A2 size, and place it in the center. Then we'll run this right through our die cutting machine to cut it out. Now I'm going to cut this background out a second time, and if you want it to go through the machine a little bit easier, put it at a slight angle like this. That way this isn't going straight through, it's kind of running through at an angle so that it's a little bit easier. And then you can easily pop out all of these little chevron pieces in here, and I'll show you a technique using these in just a second. So once I got 2 of these cut out, here is how the background would look if you just adhere one down, and then if you take the other one and just rotate it 180 degrees, then you can adhere this on top of each other, and you can see that background creates a really beautiful, intersecting, almost argyle looking pattern. So I've added some liquid adhesive down, and then I'm going to adhere this directly onto a stark white card base. So this is going to be a nice tone-on-tone look and just give tons of texture. So here's how this background looks with just one of the chevrons. It's beautiful as is. And like I said, this is great because then you can put a nice colorful focal point on top, and it's not taking away from the focal point, but just adding some great texture. All right, so then I'll rotate this one, and then I'm going to adhere it down right on top, and then I'll press it down. And this just adds even more texture and a 3-dimensional look to that background. It almost looks woven, which is just so cool. Next, I'm gonna go in with 2 more of these vases and cut them out of some darker colored cardstocks. All right, I want these vases right here, but I want them to sort of ground them down. So I'm gonna make a mental note where that is, and I'm just gonna go in with a little bit of breakup blue after the fact to add a little bit of color around that area. And this is gonna be really fun because the breakup blue sort of goes in there, and it's going to sort of catch the lines of this and create some really fun color and depth to the background. It's just going to lay down enough color to give a great grounding place for these vases and florals we're going to add down. And then I'll adhere these vases down on some foam tape, popping them up and layering one behind the other. Then again, I'll sort of plan a loose idea of where I want these stems, and then I'll add the florals in right after using some foam tape to pop them up for some dimension. And these look absolutely gorgeous in here. And then last but not least, we'll pop some leaves in to give it a more 3-dimensional look and fill out the vases. And once this beautiful arrangement is all finished, I'm going to pop up the Scenting Hugs sentiment on some foam tape, making it overlap those vases to finish everything off. And here's a closer look at that finished card. I love how it all turned out, coming from that background with the really great zigzag chevrons. I like how simple it is just to add texture there, and then finishing it off with these gorgeous floral bouquets with the flowers and vases set. For this next card, I want to do a color blocking technique, so I'm going to show you how to use this die to do some paper piecing. So here I'm going in with a couple different colors of cardstock. I'm going to start out with this beautiful dark pink color, and then I'll run it right through. And be sure to keep all of the inside pieces from your die cut and set it off to the side. And then I'll repeat that same step and die cut this background out of some orange and yellow cardstock as well. So to start, I'm going to adhere one of these white die cut backgrounds right down onto my A2 size card base, press it down. And once that's adhered, this has created a lot of little cavities that we can then put all of the different paper pieces in. So I'm going to start off at the bottom here and add a little bit of liquid glue into some of these areas. And then we're able to go in with the little pieces. So here I'm going to start off with the dark pink and just insert them right into those slots. And it's super easy to do. Then we'll add a little bit of glue to the next one and then place it in. So this is a really easy and fun way to use the inside pieces of the chevrons and add tons of beautiful and fun color to your cards. And you could just use a certain color scheme and repeat it all the way down to create a fun pattern. I've stopped the colors about halfway up and faded it back out to white, but I love how this background turned out by cutting it out of different colors of cardstock and creating your own fun chevron pattern. It's a really great way to add some color to your background and some personality to these chevrons. Now that background's super cool because once you put all the pieces in, it's pretty much flat. If I want to create a similar look to that but spend a little bit less time on it, I'll show you another method. So for this, I'm starting on a stark white card base, and I'm going to go in using a large Altenew blending brush. This is going to cover a bunch of surface area at once and start doing some blending. And I'm just going to cover the whole card with color. So starting off with this darkest color at the bottom, I'm going to lightly blend all over the surface. And I really love how big this is because you can see just how much ink we're able to apply at one time in a really quick amount of time. And I have one of these for each one of the color families, so before we switch to the next color blue, I'm just going to gently wipe it off on the surface of my cardstock, and then I'll go into the next color. So here I'm using Clear Skies, which is a little bit of a lighter blue-green color, and I'm going to just blend that right into the darker blue. and you get a really nice, smooth, and beautiful color. I love how those two blend together. And then last but not least, I'm going in using a little bit of Psych on my green blending brush, and I'm just going to take this and blend it right into that blue color. And this is going to overlap with the blue and create a new darker green in between, which I really like. And then it'll also kind of create this lighter yellowish green color as we carry it up towards the top. And I'm going to sort of fade out to white and not carry it all the way up. Now you could leave this blend super smooth as it is, but I'm gonna go in using just a tiny bit of water, and I'm just going to lightly mist over the top of the surface. And my inks react really beautifully with water, so you're gonna see it gets lots of texture and dimension from this. Like I said, if you wanted it smooth, you could skip this step, but I like the texture that that adds. And then I'm gonna take the zigzag chevron die cut background in white and lay it right over top, giving it some good pressure to make sure that it sticks. So this one is much easier than sticking all those little pieces in, and it's so stunning once it's finished. This would be a great way to use up different colorful backgrounds you have in your craft room to make really easy and stunning card backgrounds. I love that zigzag chevron detail on top. So for a super simple and modern look, I'm going to use this face. I'm going to place this down on the surface, and then to just place in the insert, I'm going to place it also right down on my desk. Make sure that it's aligned in the center. And then I'll go in using a little bit of mint tape to hold these two pieces together and make sure they don't shift. Here I'm going to use a piece of gray cardstock and place this down. If I've had a colorful background, I'm going to keep kind of neutral with some of the colors, but if you have kind of a more plain background, you could go really fun and colorful on these vases. And check out that gorgeous line detail in the vase. I love that you're able to include the insert if you want the details, or keep it simple. Again, I want to add some shading, so I'm going in using Shady and a blending tool to just blend on some color to the top and bottom of this vase to make it stand out. I'll pop this base up on some foam tape to make it stand out on this really bright and colorful background. And then I'm going to use one of the long stems and just kind of rip it apart into several smaller pieces that we can use to mount some of the flowers on. Then I'll glue them right inside this vase. And I think these yellow sunflowers are going to be gorgeous along with this colored background. So I'll add one straight down onto the card, and then I'll add the second one on some foam tape to make it stand out and give it some dimension. And if you think something's missing in the bouquet, just add some leaves to fill it in. I'm going to go in with some of the leaves we've included in the set and kind of fill them in with the vase. And this is why we've included so many different leaves at different angles to really make them fill in every area and give it a natural look. And then I'll finish it off with this Love You So Much foiled sentiment on the black cardstock. Here's a closer look at the finished card. I love that really beautiful and bold background paired along with the more neutral vase and the gorgeous flowers sticking out of it. It's so awesome to use those vases and have fun creating your own floral arrangements using all the different leaves and florals you have in the set. I just love how bright and bold this one is. Alright you guys, I hope you really enjoyed today's video and everything that I shared. There was tons of inspiration on these new products. Give it a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment down below letting me know which product and card was your favorite. And also down there, remember, is a full supplies list and the links to the new products that we just released. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today, and I'll see you all soon. Have a great day. Bye!